For those who don't know, Sabiha Gokcen was the adopted daughter of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, the founding father of modern Turkey. The story goes that Ataturk met her when she was a child, during a visit to Bursa in 1925. An orphan from a family with Bosnian roots, Ataturk took her back to Ankara with him and encouraged her interest in aviation. Just a few years later, at age 23, she became the world's first female combat pilot. Naturally, she remains quite famous in the country. One of Istanbul's two main airports, Sabiha Gokcen International, was named after her in 2001. Both as a woman and as Ataturk's adopted daughter, she is regarded as a symbol of the modernization that the Kemalist era strived towards. On the 6th of February 2004, just 3 years after Sabiha's death, an article was published in the Turkish newspaper Agos. It claimed that Gökçen was in fact of Armenian origins. A woman named Sebilciyan, who said she was Sabiha's niece, claimed that their family had been murdered during the Armenian genocide. What was that? Well, in 1915, the Ottoman Empire perpetrated the Armenian and Assyrian genocides. In April that year, Interior Minister Talat Pasha ordered the destruction of the Christian population through telegrams to governors throughout Anatolia. Millions of Armenian and Assyrian Christians were rounded up and sent on death marches to concentration camps in Syria. In many areas, they were killed in organized massacres. The survivors of these massacres and death marches were later massacred in their camps in 1916. Overall, around 800,000 Armenians were killed between the years 1915 and 1917, and several hundred thousand Assyrians. If you want to know more, I have a video on the subject which you can watch here. Despite being well documented, the genocides are still denied within modern Turkish society. It is literally the most controversial thing you can bring up if you are talking about the nation's history, and it still plagues Turkish-Armenian relations today. So you can imagine when the article was published on Sabiha's ancestry, people were not pleased. Turkish media roundly condemned it, even the military got involved. 2 weeks after it was published, the Turkish Military Chief of Staff's office issued a strongly worded statement which said, quote, "She, Sabiha Gokcen, who is a Turk and the first war pilot of the Turkish Armed Forces, is an honorary member of the Turkish Air Force. Sabiha Gokcen is also a valuable and a strong symbol of Turkish women, and she represents Ataturk's vision of the ideal place of Turkish women in modern Turkish society. Opening such a figure to debate, for whatever purpose, makes no contribution to national integrity and social peace. It is unacceptable to qualify a claim which is published in an abusive discourse against national sentiments and values as newsmaking. These days, when we are in need of very strong national solidarity, the majority of our people understand the purpose of such news stories that are against our national integrity, solidarity, and national values, and follow these publications with concern. The military has traditionally been quite Kemalist in their leaning, so it's not entirely surprising they felt the need to publish something. At the same time, the extreme right wing of Turkish media started a campaign against Dink, the author of the initial news story. Dink was a Turkish Armenian writer who was no stranger to controversy. He'd been brought to court before under Article 301 of the Turkish Penal Code. This article makes it illegal to insult Turkey, the Turkish nation, the Turkish government institutions, or Turkish national heroes such as Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. Soon after the Gökçen expose, however, he was brought to court a further 2 times under the same penal code. He was found guilty the second time and received a 6-month prison sentence. In a February 2006 interview with the Committee to Protect Journalists, Dink spoke about his 2005 conviction, stating, quote, "This is a political decision because I wrote about the Armenian genocide and they detest that. So they found a way to accuse me of insulting Turks." Dink then said he had always been in the sights of Turkish nationalists, but the past year saw an escalation in their efforts. Quote, "The prosecutions are not a surprise for me. They want to teach me a lesson because I am Armenian. They tried to keep me quiet." Asked who they are, Dink replied unhesitatingly, "The deep state in Turkey." And what's the deep state in Turkey? Well, a deep state generally refers to a kind of shadow or parallel system of government in which unofficial or publicly unacknowledged individuals play important roles in defining and implementing state policy. In the case of Turkey, this is not a conspiracy theory. Turkey is literally where the term deep state comes from. The Turkish deep state usually involves forces within the government using criminals or gangs to do their dirty work for them, whatever that happens to be at the time. Dink blamed them in part for the harassment he was receiving. I'm getting into all of this because on the 19th of January 2007, as he walked to work in Istanbul, Dink was shot 3 times in the back of the head at point blank range. His killer, a 17-year-old high school dropout, received 23 years in prison. He was released early in 2023 after serving just 17 years. The reaction to Dink's murder was huge. It was roundly condemned by most political parties and politicians within the country. 100,000 people attended his funeral. Orhan Pamuk, Turkey's Nobel Prize winning author, said of the killing, "In a sense, we are all responsible for his death. However, at the very forefront of this responsibility are those who still defend Article 301 of the Turkish Penal Code. Those who campaigned against him, those who portrayed this sibling of ours as an enemy of Turkey, those who painted him as a target, they are the most responsible in this. And then, in the end, we are all responsible." So was Sabiha Gokcen even Armenian? According to a later interview in Hurriyet with one of Sabiha's closest friends, she was. Her friend, a historian named Tulgaci, said of Dink's article, "This is true, Sabiha knew she was Armenian. She never revealed this to the public because of the reactions it would cause." According to Tulgaci, Gökçen did not remember her parents. While living in Ankara as Ataturk's adopted daughter, she learned she was Armenian only when relatives in Beirut contacted her. She later visited them in Lebanon. However, Tulgaci also stated that the story told by Sebilciyan, who claimed to be Gökçen's niece, was incorrect, explaining that Gökçen's family was from Bursa. It seems probable she had Armenian ancestry, even if the details are contested. The daughter of Ataturk was, in all possibility, a victim of the atrocities of the Ottoman massacres. And discussing the likelihood of this possibility, a century later, got an innocent man killed. As William Faulkner wrote in 1951, "The past is never dead, it's not even past."